Good evening and welcome, or good afternoon. Good evening in Queensland where I am at the moment, but good afternoon if you're in Darwin or in Perth or in anywhere in the western half of the country. My name is Dante St James. I'm going to be taking you through this particular webinar tonight, which is all about writing anything in less than an hour. So it sounds like a miracle to be able to do this kind of thing. And yes, I've had quite a few years experience at writing this. But with this formula I'm going to give you tonight, it's going to give you the option to be able to write about almost anything you like. If blogging has been a bugbear for you, you haven't been able to get into it, you haven't been able to master it, well, this is pretty much what's going to do it for you. This will allow you to be able to do, it'll allow systemize your writing to such a point that you'll be able to go well beyond just simply writing a blog and be able to syndicate it as well. I've got the chat open, so I'll be able to see what you're writing. I just saw a message from Sharon come through. Also use the Q&A if you like. All those avenues are open for you to use. I'll read them as I can. This is going to be quite an interactive live thing. So this is the one that I do where I just put myself through a whole lot of stress and pressure to get this done, writing about anything in less than an hour. To give myself the maximum amount of time to be able to do this with, it's best that I get underway straight away. The quote from Sylvia Plath is that everything in life is writable about if you have the outgoing guts to do it and the imagination to improvise. The worst enemy to creativity is self-doubt. A little bit of inspiration as we go into it. This is brought to you by Business Station and the Australian Small Business Advisory Services Digital Solutions Program, as brought to you by the Australian Government. It's presented in Western Australia by Business Station, by Regional Development Australia, Brisbane in Queensland, and Treaty Business Consulting in the Northern Territory. To find out more about the program and even going for a one-to-one consultation, just pop into businessstation.com.au, which is likely where you actually booked this particular webinar. You can watch this again later on YouTube. I'll be loading it up probably in about 2 hours' time to my particular channel on YouTube, and Business Station should have it on their channel sort of around about middle of tomorrow as well. A bit about me, if you'd not come across me before, I've educated originally in medicine, long story, won't go into it, at the Western Sydney University. Also been educated through the University of New South Wales in their business school with marketing and also with business information systems, which I also happened to do my master's through, which was a very interesting experience. Ever really wanted to do a master's, I would say, hey, feel free to do it. It's a lot of fun doing it. It's also really hard work. So if you ever feel like doing a master's, I'd say do it. It's a great experience. I've also studied with the Chartered Institute of Marketing in TAFE, New South Wales. Facebook have certified me and accredited me for being a lead trainer, a digital marketing associate, planner, buyer, creative strategist, and creative scientist. Sounds like big things, don't they? And I've done a lot of work with the following programs down the bottom: Google's Digital Springboard and this the government's programs, Be Connected, ASBAS Digital Solutions, and the New Business Assistance with New Enterprise Incentive Scheme. There's so many acronyms in there. Let's get on with it. Who is this for tonight? It's for the busy person, the person who just doesn't think they're going to be able to blog. This method is fast. It's really seriously fast, and you'll see how fast that can be when I do it live a little bit later on. It's also for the overthinker. You already know if that's you. The beginner, you probably know if that's you as well. You may not even know what the blog is. Basically, it's just in like really short terms. It's an article that goes on your website or somewhere else as well. What we're going to cover is what blogging is and why you should actually bother with it. We're going to look at some of the myths around it, including the SEO and the great lie of what we call the tortured writer. And we'll be also syndicating your blog to other places as well towards the end. But in the middle of all this, I'm going to write a live blog on one of your topics. And I might even be able to fit in two. This is how you'll be able to see how quickly this kind of thing can get going. So why blogging? Well, blogging shows your expertise. It helps you to write the stuff you know, even if that stuff may seem boring to you. It may seem boring to you, but the stuff that you do could be absolutely fascinating to someone else. I do digital marketing. Seriously, it's the most boring thing ever. It's all stats and figures and playing with Canva. Okay, the Canva bit's kind of fun, but it's one of the least interesting things I could be doing in the world. I'm not saving the world. I'm not, a vet. I'm not building houses. I'm not making incredible, scented candles and wax melts. I'm just teaching people how to use Facebook, essentially. It's boring to me, but it's of use to other people. And that's what the key is. You may be doing something that's of incredible use to other people. It also helps you attract searches in Google. And this is where it becomes really a big money spinner for you. Because when you base what you're writing about on what people are searching for, you've got people constantly coming through to you for that thing that you, number one, know lots about. And number two, is something that people are searching for in abundance. And then after you're done with that, you get to, don't just stop at the blog, then syndicate it out to different places, places like Medium, places like, well, there's all sorts of places. You can send it off to LinkedIn, you can send it off to Facebook. There's all sorts of places where you can then publish a blog to get a little bit more coverage. And that's what we'll cover towards the end. So when it comes to blogging, the process of blogging, number one, choose your topic. Base this on research, not just on what you feel like. Sure, there's an element which you have to go with, which is working with the stuff that you are an expert at, things that you understand, things that you are, I guess, you've got expertise in, let's put it that way. But there's also the fact that you need to base it on something more than just what you know. You've also got to do the whole idea of what people are actually looking for. So there could be like a bunch of things that I do, but I can tell you now that nobody who's looking for what I'm doing is looking for instructions on how to manage my time between working in a hotel lobby earlier today and working in a motel tonight. Like that's not something that's worth blogging about. But what is worth blogging about is the processes I go through, the systems I go through, the successes I've had, and how you can systemize your stuff through those successes as well. Writing your blog on that topic uses a simple format. Now, blogging is not a huge creative process. It doesn't have to be. It's just a process like anything. In fact, it's kind of like following a recipe. There's a recipe for how to write a blog. You just go and do that, and it just demystifies it all. It takes away all the stuff about, oh, I'm not that great a writer. Oh, I'm not particularly creative. This is for people who are not creative. I sometimes say I've got the creativity of a house brick, but then I produce beautiful, Canva graphics like this. Trust me, the platform does all the work. I'm just the guy who puts in the pictures. Publishing and syndicating, then you publish it first to the places most useful to you. It's usually the blog on your website, because that's the place where you ultimately want to draw people through to from your for traffic. You want people going through there because that's where you've got the ability to be able to convert that into proper paying clients. You can't do that as easily on social media, but you can certainly do that on your own website's blog. So the process is pretty defined. Choose a topic, base it on research and on a little bit of what you know and what your expertise in. Then write your blog using the formula that we're going to show in a sec, and then publish it away. So this magic formula that I keep going on about is based on this. Ask a question. So ask a common question that is often asked about the things that you do. And I've got a few ideas for what we can do with that in just a sec. Then answer that question. So you've asked it in the title. Answer the question directly in the first paragraph, or even if you can do it in the first sentence. What this does, it spikes Google's algorithm to say, here's a question and an answer that's been delivered in a format that's really quick, gets to the point, and isn't confusing. And then you go forward to explain that answer further. And Google likes that, and people like that. You're not just going, here's the question, here's the answer. You're going, here's the question, here's the answer, and here's why this is the answer. So this could be something, say, for instance, on the process of choosing the right acrylic paints and the right canvas to mix. You could go, okay, the question is, how do I choose a good acrylic paint that's going to be durable on canvas? And you can answer that question by going, okay, you go to the shop and you basically spend this much money and buy this brand. Then you explain it out by saying, well, you would use this brand simply because they have this particular substance in there that helps those colors stick for longer. So you're not so much going to worry about things fading so quickly. Now, regular web pages work like this too. It's not just about blogs, it's about regular web pages as well. What you can do is put in the top 10 things that clients or customers ask you. That is going to give you the 10 next blog posts you're going to have. The top 10 things that clients or customers are already asking you. There's 10 blog entries straight off the bat. So you just write those down, and that will be the first 10 you're going to write. Then there is the other top 10, which is the top 10 things that you wish people would ask for you. So the things that you often have to answer all the time, you feel stupid having to answer all the time, but you have to answer it all the same. This is giving you a chance then to do, I guess, a little bit of preparation or a little bit of selling as well. So you're not just doing it in such a way that people are going, oh, this is just a sales story. What it is you saying, here's what I want to put out there, as well as what people are already asking. And by following that same formula, ask the question in the title, answer the question directly in the first paragraph or first sentence, and then finally in the bottom, that's when you explain out what your answer is going to be. So you can use that exact same formula through pages, through blogs, through lists, through all sorts of stuff that helps you to write just that little bit easier. So there are a few little caveats I want to put in place. And by caveats, I mean little things to think about before you actually go forth and conquer the blog. The blog is not about you. It may think it is because it's on your website, but it's not actually about you. You need to aim your language at what's in it for them, what's in it for your customer, rather than here's a bit more about me. So instead of writing it all about, here's my great product, here's my great services, buy, you're going, here's a problem that you have, and here's how I answer that problem. Consider your tone. Are you writing it for younger people, older people, people with English as a second language? Or is it for people who are tech savvy, or people who don't know anything about technology at all? Is it for people, men, women, people from a different background other than your own, or people in a very specific geographical area? All those things are going to change the tone of what you're writing. So if you need a hand with that, that's the kind of thing you need to sort of run past other people so they're aware, so they can give you a little bit of feedback on what it is that needs to be sort of tweaked and changed a little bit to suit that particular audience. And feel like you can be inspired by others as well. You don't have to know all the answers. You don't have to know everything, and you don't have to be the best at everything. You just have to be the person who brings it in the writing. So look to those who are also doing what you do and bring some of what they've said into your writing as well. If someone's got a really good way of explaining something, or a quote, or there's some kind of product description they've given that you think is quite brilliant, then in that case, feel free to be inspired by it. I'm not saying plagiarize, I'm not saying steal it. I'm just saying be inspired by it, write your version of it, but use that same kind of language, use that same kind of point, and you'll be able to bring in what's best about their websites into your website as well. So I'm going to write a blog right now. This is going to be scary. So I'm going to have to put this screen down, go to a Microsoft Word. So let's open up Word, new document, reshare my screen. Hi. Look, I might have someone knocking on my door very shortly, dropping off my dinner. So it's I'm staying in a motel at the moment. I didn't have much of a choice at the times when they're going to actually deliver these meals. So I was going to be probably stuck with someone going, knock, 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 dropping off my Uber Eats. Don't worry too much about that. I won't eat it in front of you, I promise. I'll probably snack on a little bit of it though, because I'm really, really hungry right now. All right, let's share my Microsoft Word document. Now, what I'm going to do in the middle, first up, I've not prepared anything here, but we'll give it a go anyway. I'm going to do my title as, let me go, heading 1. My title is going to be, I'm going to look around me here in this motel and get some inspiration. Okay, what makes one motel better than the others? Till I'm on the road. So if I have that as my question, then I need to answer that straight away. So I can go in what I call groups of 3. So 3 points I'm going to explain and go further into. So I'm going to go, okay, the thing that I've found in all my travels around Australia is that motels are not just motels. They vary widely from one to the next, and have very different levels of features and service. Where I have found that motels differ the most is, and now I'm going to do my points. So my dot points are going to be firstly, the quality of the bedding, access to Wi-Fi and TV. I'll just go access to Wi-Fi. And the third one would be in-room dining and on-site restaurants. So I've done basically the answer, what I've said. What makes one motel better than the other? Well, I said they're very widely. What I've found that motels differ most is these areas. So this is what kind of separates one motel from the next. So what I'm going to do now is explain my answer. So I'm going to go the quality of the bedding, and that's going to become my subheading. So heading number 2, I'm going to go, right, I have stayed in 3 motels in the past 2 weeks, and each one varied wildly from the other when it came to the quality. My typing, what's going on? I need to learn how to touch type properly, of the bedding and the night's sleep I was able to get. What I've found is that motel mattresses are rarely ever of a good quality, though some are more firm than others. When you're looking at a motel to book and a good night's sleep is important to you, then check the reviews and TripAdvisor to make sure that you're getting what you need. So I'm going to add in a little bit more detail here and just go, for example, I ignored the ratings on TripAdvisor for the hotel, or the motel, sorry, that I stayed in last night in Cairns. I won't name it, but I will say that the mattress was way too soft to be supportive enough for a good night's sleep. That really changed the way my day went today. Next time, I'll read the reviews. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to copy my format here for point number 2, which is access to Wi-Fi. So access to Wi-Fi then becomes my second topic. This is vital when you're on the road for work. In fact, I've found that this is one of the things that motels do quite well. As they are generally smaller than hotels, they are not sharing an internet connection with quite as many people. So they are able to share their Wi-Fi to a smaller group who then get a bigger share each of the bandwidth. I also noticed that where a lot of hotels will charge for Wi-Fi access, motels just include it in as part of your stay. Now I work on the road a lot, so good internet is good business for me. And if you're traveling with kids, they'll appreciate the access to YouTube as well. So that's number two. Now, what I've done is now 345 words. Now, you wouldn't think that I've covered 345 words in this tiny little blog, but 300 words is about the minimum that you want to do for a blog post. That's what Google seems to look at and goes, this is a writing that has some substance to it. It's not just a quick little blip of information or a little cutting of information. It's actually got a little bit more to it than what you would normally have. So I'll say then, finally, in my last point was in-room dining and on-site restaurants. So go in-room dining and on-site restaurants. Now, please ignore my spelling and my incorrect grammar. It's going to be a little bit all over the place when you're under pressure. So in-room dining, on-site restaurant. I am one who enjoys a hot breakfast. So I always appreciate a good in-room brekkie in a motel. These days, however, this is becoming quite rare as motels close their kitchens due to COVID-19. But for those that still operate, it's a bonus when I find it. Make sure you check with the motel before you travel that they have this service. Otherwise, you may have to travel a bit further in town to find a place to grab breakfast at that doesn't have an MC in front of the name of its meals. I think you know what I'm talking about there. So now that I've done that, I've got my title where I ask the question. I've answered my question in this first paragraph. I give myself 3 points to expand upon. And now what I've got is I've got this then exploration of all the things that I'm actually doing with this. So I've gone the quality of the bedding, I've then explored that. The access to Wi-Fi, I've explored that. In-room dining, on-site restaurant, I've then explored that. And as you can see, I don't have to write a lot to cover it. I've just written just enough just to make sure that I'm at least covering off what I need to cover off. Now, a good thing to do at the end is to close it all off. So you can close it all off with something like, how do you choose a better motel? So I'll make that a subheading again. By doing your research and reading the reviews, you'll have a better stay with less nasty surprises, and you'll get a better night's sleep. Now, if you're writing this from a sales point of view where you're actually selling motel rooms, I suppose, you could add then what is a call to action at the bottom, which could be for more information on how we help business travelers to select better accommodation, phone, or I can just say email probably in this day and age, can't I? Dante@clickstarter.com.au. So therefore, I just wasn't really thinking of writing an article about motels, but in, how long was that? About 10 minutes, I was able to write something which I know quite a lot about because I stay in a lot of motels. I was able to form that into what is essentially now a full blog post. This is something that could be posted on a website with a photo. I can go and grab a photo. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go over to a place called Medium and I'm going to post that. I'm actually quite proud of that little article. So I'm going to go to what I call, it's called Medium. So I'll bring up and share the screen. So I'll show you what this is. Medium is like a magazine or a newspaper that's online. So it's a collection of lots and lots of different people's stories. So if I share my screen properly again, so you can see what I'm doing. And this is one of the things I was going to show you that's got to do with syndicating. So syndicating is really fun to do because it allows you to take your articles a lot further than what they were before. So I'm just going to paste in my article into Medium. I'm going to make this my heading. So up the top, turn that back into just regular text. Definitely don't want it to be bold. Come on. So it's now laid everything out for me. Now what I can do is just go and pick some pictures. So go image. I can pick, let me go. I need to pick something that's going to work. I might have to get something from Unsplash. Unsplash is a great service, by the way, for getting really beautiful images. So let's see what I can find in here. Look there, motel. So I'm going to just download that one and use that as the image I'm going to use in my story. Stephen Lewis. And I'm going to caption that, not all motel, oops. Not all motels are the same. So now I've written all that out. I can go through with my Grammarly plugin and check that I've got everything written correctly. Full work is correct with a smaller group. There we go. So now I'm going to publish this one, and this one's now going to go in my group of articles on Medium. So I'm going to put in motels, motels in Australia. There we go. Hotels, just hotels will do. Publish, and now that's going out there. Now I could also put that on my website. So what this is going to do is now produce this layout on the website called Medium. So I can share that wherever I want to go and share it. And I produced what is now actually an okay little piece of content. Got a whole bunch. I put a lot of my articles onto here. So this is one I put on 5 days ago about Facebook groups. So you can do that as well. Medium is free to post on. If you just want to, if you want to have your articles boosted through, there's a paid membership that I pay for, which is about $4 a month or something like that, which helps me just to get a little bit further so I can get people commenting on and seeing more of my stuff. So I'm just going to close all these down. So I really recommend you use something like Medium. But for now, you can see that this formula is really, really simple to use, and it lays out really nicely on websites like this, or just as nicely in your particular website. Your website will look like this as well. So what we're going to do now, for the fear of somebody coming in to drop in my Uber Eats at any moment now, what I will do is we're going to put it to you, the audience, in the, let's just say in the chat window. I want you to put in, if you would like me to have a go at writing a blog for you in the same format, what it is, what your business name is, and what your business does. So I'll give you a minute just to do that. So have a think about whether you're someone who has a particular product or a particular service that you'd like to explore in that blog. I'll bring you up onto the stage and we'll have a chat, and we'll just go, okay, so tell me a little bit about your business. Tell me a little bit about what you actually do, what you have running in your business, what you'd like to promote. So I'm seeing a few ideas coming in. So Susan's giving me some ideas. Donna's probably really, really easy to do. So real estate agency, home-to-home realty, strata, property management, and sales. All right, Donna, I'm going to just get you to come up and have a chat with me. Hopefully that's okay with you, be able to chat with me, and we'll have a little bit of a chat about what it is we want to do. So Donna, I think you should be able to talk. There you are.
Right, I think I've unmuted me.
Yep, you have. Yep, you're coming through loud and clear. Thank you for that. So when we look at what you want to do in terms of what you would like to say in a blog, what's a message that you would like to get across to somebody?
In terms of vacates, like one of the touch points or pain points for my property managers is when tenants vacate a property, we give them a list of, things that we ask them to attend to, but sometimes they either don't do it or ignore it. So I'd love to be able to explain to people from our point of view why it's so important that they do clean the light fittings so that the next person moves in's got light fittings, why it's important they look up and get rid of the cobwebs in the corner. I'd like to be able to, I guess, get across the reasons we do the things that we do in our job to make it more pleasant, I guess, for the next person.
Okay, so I'm going to start this out. Why do I have to clean so much stuff when I'm moving out
Yeah.
of a rental property? So that'd be a question for you too. You probably have to get some cleaners in there half the time, just if you've got some pig tenants. Right. So what we'll start off with. So one of the things you brought up then was, we often find as property managers that tenants struggle to understand why we ask for so much cleaning to be done as they vacate. After all, their motivation isn't strong. The top reasons why we require a thorough clean on the way out are, so we'll go number one. So from what you were telling me, we want the next tenant to have a great first impression of their new home too.
And the standard to which to keep it for themselves.
Yeah. We recommend you clean regularly so it isn't a huge hassle at the end. And third one would be that we know that you want to get your bond back.
Yeah.
Everyone wants their bond back, don't they? Just one sec. Just checking where my where Min is on his motorcycle, on his cycle, on his way to drop off my food. Good, I'm still safe. All right, I've got time. So the next part is we now explain that. So we're going to have now these answers here are pretty long, so they might be a little bit hard to sort of go on just on their own. So we might just condense those down a bit for the headings and go. We want the next tenant to have okay. The next tenant deserves a clean home. So make that into a heading 2, and we're going to start. Remember when you moved in to this home and it was beautifully clean and ready for you to make a home out of? I'm going to change that, moved into this house, and it was beautiful and ready for you to make a home out of. The next tenant wants that same experience. They want to walk in and know that everything is ready for them to live their best life in the home they've been waiting to move into.
Especially empty the bins. When everybody moves house, everyone has rubbish to put into bins, from packing boxes and paper. They can't do it if the last tenant fills up the bin and doesn't empty it. Oh, yeah.
Right. I could tell this is a very passionate area for you.
It is. It's common sense, but sometimes people don't get it.
Of packing boxes and rubbish to get rid of. Remember that. They need all the bin space they can get.
Empty your bins.
So when you empty the bin, it means the next person has the space they need for a seamless and no, frictionless is the word I'm looking for. Not that anyone will understand what that is. Frictionless moving day. So that is enough. That's already like 213 words. Would you believe that's 213 words already? We only need 300. So we're only on the point 1. Let's go to point 2. So point 2. Now, I'm not a property manager. I've worked with property managers. I have a property manager, I guess, but I don't really know this. So I'm not sort of writing this from any area of expertise. So I can imagine if you were writing in this formula, Donna, you'd be able to, do hugely better than what I'm doing. So let's look at, we recommend you clean regularly. So regular cleans mean faster bond cleans or something like that. Okay, so want to know the reason why bond cleans cost so much? It's because so many tenants don't clean regularly and everything kind of piles up.
Yeah.
Dust on skirting boards,
Exhaust fans,
cobwebs in cornices, exhaust fans full of grime,
ovens baked on
dirty
grime.
ovens, and baked on dirty is not
Christmas
spelled like
dinner.
that. Baked on Christmas dinners have sent the stovetop into an interesting array of colors. By cleaning regularly, you make it easier for the bond cleaners. So your final clean should cost a lot less because you've made it faster for them to get that clean done. Great. And then we got our third one, which is we know that you want to get your bond back.
And it's simple because they just have to refer back to the ingoing property condition report to know what's expected.
If they can find it.
We can provide another copy.
That's it. Well, you guys have got a copy in there.
That's
so getting
it.
your bond back. So everyone wants their full bond back. To ensure that you do, make sure that you refer to your ingoing condition report. It will show everything that was either needing maintenance. No, let's go down. It's going to assume that was perfect. It will show everything the way that it was when you moved in. This way, you'll know what needs repairing, painting, or extra cleaning on your way out. When you leave the home in as close to the condition you moved into it, then you make the bond payout much faster, as we don't have to source extra cleaning or negotiate. No, we're not negotiating with terrorists to source extra cleaning from elsewhere. So then at the end of it, we can say something like, better tenants are better people. When you think like the person who is moving in next, it makes you a better tenant and a better human being. After all, No one likes to live in someone else's mess. There we go. You got a blog post.
Awesome. Can we use it?
Yeah, you can say that if you want. I can send it off to you. Let me save it and I'll send it to you. I've got your email address here somewhere. So I'll put Donna's blog post. Bang. That's what was 10 minutes again, I guess.
You make it look easy.
See, and that's the like sure, like I've done lots and lots of writing, so for me this is not a very difficult thing to do, but the point is it's still following that same exact process. So I'll just stop that screen share and go back. No, I don't want to end all of that. I just want to go back to my original share. Where are you? Share video, share screen. Here we go. It is this one. I'm usually so organized with these things. There we go. So Min's about to turn up to my door. So what I'm going to do is I want everybody, if they can, to open up Word or something like that in their particular browser or their particular computer. And I want you to type in 3 questions that you could get answered, that you want answered in your blog. So if you've got things that you want to answer in your blog, like just think of the questions you want to ask as those leading questions. And I'll just grab this food from Min. I won't be a second. All right, now let's see. Get some people to raise their hands if they've got some ideas they want to run through as some ideas of how to write some of this stuff. So let's see who's raising their hand. We've got Susan. Susan's saying, sure, they'll put the bin out on their last day, so it's emptied. Hopefully that will be the day that people actually, the rubbish actually comes. Now, let's see who's got their hand raised. Donna, did you have some ideas you wanted to run through? Probably need to unmute first.
Mute. Yep, I did.
There we go.
Yep.
All right. Do you want to run me through the 3 that you've got there?
Yeah. So how is it to change strata managers? Is there a cost to change strata managers?
Yep.
And what is the process to change strata managers? I don't know if they're too similar. Is that what you're looking for?
Well, that's great actually, because they're going to be questions that are going to be asked quite frequently on Google by people who are looking for that particular stuff. So for instance, you would start that off with saying, okay, with strata managers, you want to, so if is there a cost to changing strata managers? So what's the basic answer to that?
The basic answer is sometimes.
Yep.
Because some strata managers do charge a outgoing fee to prepare everything to hand over. Some don't.
So you could form that in terms of, okay, quite often when somebody's...
what's in the agreement, yeah.
Yeah. So you follow exactly the same thing. So what you do to get yourself a really good set of those kind of questions to be asking in your blog, just go for that top 10. So if you look for your top 10, which is the top 10 things that people would ask you. So as from the strata point of view, from the tenant point of view, from the property management point of view, because you do multiple things, you've got multiple things you can look at. So if you look at that, say, for instance, okay, the top 10 things that people who are wanting to rent ask, the top 10 things that landlords ask, the top 10 things that someone looking for strata management asks, and the top 10 things that people who have got strata management and are looking to change would ask. That's 40 blog posts straight off the bat that you can write using that same formula. So remembering that we're just simply asking a question at the top, answering the question in that first paragraph, and then we're moving on to explain those steps. So it's almost exactly the same thing we did when we were in high school and we were writing essays. It's like an essay format. Answer the question, back it up and explain your answers, and then have a conclusion at the end, which takes into account the explanations you just got and repeats what your answer was. So let's see if anyone else just use a raise hand, or if you can drop something into the chat. I know that Sharon was going to have it. She's had a lot of messages, but cannot use her microphone at the moment. Thanks, Donna. I'm just going to put you back to sleep. There we go. Thank you for taking part. I know this is like quite a few familiar faces and familiar names I can see on the list tonight. So I would really love it if I could, and she's going to hate me for asking this, but Narita, who I know from Darwin, I'm going to just put you on to ask if there's 3 things that you came up with as ideas for your blog post, Narita.
I hate you, Dante.
I knew you were going to say that.
It's very interesting. I was actually reading through a list that I've been developing for blog posts. So I've got the team's top 5 favourite cafes in Darwin.
Yep. Actually, probably a good idea if you give us a bit of a rundown of what it is your business does.
Yes, probably.
I know, but the audience probably doesn't know.
Hi all, I'm Narita and I own a walking tour business in Darwin, Northern Territory. So we focus around the city and Botanic Gardens. And our byline is walk with the locals. So all our guides have lived in the city for at least 5 years. So I like the idea of the team's top 5 favourite cafes or coffee locations.
That's a great idea. That's a great idea. So what is the question you would ask in the heading for that?
Yeah, it's asking the question. I can think of a bit of a cynical response. So you don't think we're cultured in Darwin, eh? Yeah,
you can go that. Yeah. So you can go, so Susan's got an idea, which is where do Darwinians drink coffee? I would say then where our team loves to grab a coffee. Where does our team love to grab a coffee? Or where do we think are the best places to grab a coffee in Darwin?
Yeah. Okay, Susan, we'll compare notes.
That's great. So what was one of the other ones you had there, Narita?
The 5 must-dos when you visit Darwin.
Yeah.
Museums, markets, munchies, the monsoon season, and music.
Oh, I like that. You're going with the alliteration of the M. That's nice.
Absolutely. So the question to ask is something along the lines of here's, no, not here's. What are 5 things you can do in Darwin when you are time poor?
Yeah. Or when you're in a hurry.
When you're in a hurry. Okay.
When you're in a hurry, probably time poor is probably a little bit more of those corporate kind of terms. Let's say when you're in a hurry, or got 1 day in Darwin, here's what you can do.
Okay, like that.
That kind of thing. And 5 totally cool things to do in Darwin in a day. That's a really good one that came up with Susan too. Susan needs to be your new copywriter, I think.
I think so.
She's come up with some great ideas. So the answers of those are really, really simple, because instead of in that set of 3, you may have a set of 5 or a set of 10. And that with that formula, with those, I've used just blocks of 3 because they're kind of like 3 is a very, very nice, neat number. So you can go, okay, I can prove my answer with 1 point. I can prove it with 2 points, but if I prove it with 3, it's pretty convincing. But if you're going for something more like a list, like a top 10 things of, or a things to do in, then you can go as long as you like. I'd usually find that no more than about 10 things is usually what's comfortable for reading. And it's certainly transfers well to other places as well. So it'll go on to things like Facebook quite easily without going over the character count. It'll go on to things like, well, LinkedIn, not so much, because LinkedIn has got an article section. So you can actually put things in full format for as long as you like in an article. And then Medium is pretty much the same. You can go for as long as you possibly can. So thank you very much for that, Narita. I appreciate you taking part. I know I kind of called you up there without any warning, but you had to know that when I was saying I'm going to ask someone she's going to hate me, that it was going to be you, right?
Yes, I did.
Oh, she did.
And the husband probably was shaking his head going at the same time. Dale, it's going to be you. It's going to be you. It's definitely going to be you. So what I'm going to look at in this last sort of closing 8 minutes, gosh, that's gone really quickly. Hey, we said we're going to write a blog post in an hour. We wrote 2 and came up with several ideas for others. So this is unequivocal proof that this particular formula is a killer formula for writing your blogs. So when it comes to syndication, I like to publish my blog in lots of places, more than just one place, not just on my website, but in other places. So it could be, I like to go Medium because it gets my name out there. I like to publish in other places that will take my blogs. There might be social media. There could be other websites or other blogging platforms that link back to you, like Medium. You can also turn this kind of thing into a podcast. Now, that may sound terrifying because podcasting is a whole other deal, but it's these days a lot simpler than what it used to be. There's platforms like Audio Boom and podcast.co, which are they make it so simple for you to be able to do that. As long as you can record something onto your computer, they sort of take the hard work for you. So they'll be able to connect you through to things like Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the podcast aggregators like Spotify, and they actually put your podcast into those services. So it sort of magically appears the next day and people can download and listen to your podcast. Now, you may be thinking, who wants to listen to my voice carping on about what I do? For me, a podcast has been essential for increasing my search engine performance. So my ranking is better because I've got more stuff in more places that are shareable. Podcasts also, when they're syndicated through to Google's podcast system, which is called Google Podcasts, they really thought long and hard about that one, is that it then also comes up in search engine results. So for instance, if I'm searching for myself, so I'm searching for my business, ClickStarter, then I don't just get my website, I don't just get my Facebook and my LinkedIn and my Instagram showing up. I also get my podcasts showing up, and it'll show not just my podcast, but also the videos that I've produced on YouTube. So where I've made lots of different things that show up in lots of different places, that shows up as well. And podcasts are particularly good at this because podcasts in their notes allow you to copy and paste in your entire blog post so that someone can read along at the same time as what they're hearing it. So that then gets it able to be duplicated into another place as well. And it allows you then, to get more out of your blog post. You can then break up pieces of your blog post into little social media graphics or social media posts where you have a graphic for each one of those points. And you just go, okay, what are the 10 points I can get out of this? Here's a graphic for this point. Here's a graphic for this point. And that gives you tons and tons of different stuff. We call that repurposing your blogs. Susan was asking what the podcast app was I mentioned. I use Audio Boom, so Audio BOOM. There's also podcasts.co. They're both quite inexpensive. Audio Boom for me is probably a little bit easier to use, but podcasts.co, so podcast.co, is also really, really simple to use, come to think of it. It does all the connections through to everything, and it's a little bit cheaper too. I think it works at about $4 or $5 a month US, so that it makes it a lot easier. There are other ways you can do these things cheaper and for free, but when it comes to podcasting, you want it to be somewhere where it can handle a lot of traffic in case that traffic happened. I didn't think it ever happened for me. And then one day I seemed to hit the jackpot and had over 2,000 downloads of my podcast on one episode. the biggest day I've ever had, but it was still something which I was glad I was on a decent platform that was able to handle that. Because if I had have hosted that from my own web host, they would have probably cut me off because I used up too much. Now, one thing I do get asked is whether duplicate content gets punished by Google. So I'm saying syndicate it here, syndicate it there, put it everywhere. Everyone gets a blog. No, it doesn't. It doesn't get punished by Google. The only place you can't duplicate your content is on your own website. So for instance, if you've got a page that's got your top 10 list of places that you drink coffee in Darwin, and then you've got a blog post also in that same site, which is the top 10 places, if you've duplicated that content within your own site, that will be looked at poorly by Google. But if you've just gone to other places to put that content, there's absolutely nothing wrong. And in fact, Google looks at that as something which says, oh, you're everywhere where you need to be. You're making it easy for people to find you. We will actually now reward that. Podcast, Susan's asking if the podcast will also be on your website, only if you know how to embed them. So for instance, I've got Audio Boom allows me to automate the posting of my podcast to my website on WordPress, but not all systems will allow you to do that, but Audio Boom does. It allows me to post it as a post going through to my website. So I've got to make sure that when I write my blog and then turn it into a podcast, that I name them slightly different and I start them off differently. So there's a difference because I don't want that stuff coming through as being duplicated on my own website. So the places to look at, you might be able to syndicate your stuff to. LinkedIn has articles, that's free with your LinkedIn membership. Medium, which we just looked at. Tumblr, which is like a micro blogging service, which is quite good and free as well. It gives you just extra places to put it. Blogger is a free service from Google. Facebook allows you to post a lot of characters in a post. Google My Business has very limited characters that allows you to have, but it still lets you do it. The purple one at the bottom row is Google Sites. So you can actually have another website that just contains your blogs if you want to. Reddit is the guy with the little alien with the little thing on his head. That's a great place for putting blog posts into as well. People may comment on it. Reddit can get a bit of a bad rap, but really it's not that bad. Newspapers as well, they're always looking for new material. And if you write something that actually is of interest to them or to their audience, they'll actually really appreciate you sending that material too. And Quora is really not so much about posting blogs, but more about answering questions. So for instance, if you have, if you go in there and you see someone's asked a question that's very similar to what you have answered in your blog, you can post your blog in there as an answer to that question and then link back to your website. And that's actually a really good, valuable link back to your website as well. It's worth going in there too, to see what people are asking about in your particular industry. So thank you. We come to the end of that. That hour passed very, very quickly. I've got a veggie pizza waiting for me, and I've got this lovely, not so vegan milkshake waiting for me as well. If you'd like to get in touch with me or run some ideas past me on what your blogs are, please reach out through my email address, dante@treaty.com.au. You got LinkedIn there as well, Facebook as well. I really, really just can't wait to see what you're able to do. But it's really, 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 really handy because you've got this such easy way of, I guess, producing a blog that you probably thought was a really insurmountable mountain to get over before. So again, reach out to me if you'd like to. And remember, this will be available again on Business Station's YouTube channel and my own as well. But Business Stations will be on there as well. That's coming up in, they'll have it on like tomorrow morning. They're pretty quick at getting it up there. So thank you again. Have an awesome night. I'm about to enjoy some pizza. So hopefully you've got something yummy for dinner as well. Thank you and good night.